Welcome back to Math 103. This is video number 9 on fair division. For the sake of practice, we are redoing this entire divider-chooser problem, but now with Bob as the divider instead of Ann. Right? This is a complete redo of the problem. We're starting from the beginning and starting completely over just to see what happens when Bob is the divider instead of Ann. Okay. So at what point in the year does Bob divide it into two parts? The key beginning observation is that the whole year is worth $108,000 to Bob, and since half of $108,000 is $54,000, he has to divide the year into two $54,000 pieces, two shares that are each worth $54,000 to him. Now we could figure that out by starting at January 1st and counting forward until we've accumulated $54,000 worth of value to Bob, but there is an easier way. The easier way, which might not be dramatically easier, but many students find it helpful, is to measure value in Bob points instead of dollars. Here's what that means. Every month is worth either $6,000 to Bob or $12,000 to Bob. So let's take the less valuable months, the months in the first half of the year, and declare each one to be worth 1 Bob point. Right, so in Bob points, January, February, March, April, May, and June are each worth 1 Bob point. And then in the second half of the year, each month is therefore worth 2 Bob points, because each month in the second half of the year is worth twice as much in money as a month in the first half of the year. That's just the given information. Right, that's just the seasonality of the business that he runs. Right, that's the exact proportional relationship between a second half of the year month and a first half of the year month, according to Bob's value system. That means that the total value of the year in Bob points, we can add them all up. 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 equals 18 Bob points. Right, so that means that the value midpoint is determined by half of 18. It may be easier to think about 9 Bob points than to think about $54,000. Either way, Bob has to divide the year at the value midpoint according to his value system. So in Bob points, if you start at January 1st and count up until you've accumulated 9 Bob points, so that the second half of the year in value will also have 9 Bob points, that tells us exactly where Bob needs to divide. Right? So the first share will run from the beginning of January through the middle of August, and the second share will run from the middle of August through the end of the calendar year. But you'll notice that that's how you end up with 9. That's the one place where he can divide that will cause you to have 9 Bob points in the first share and 9 Bob points in the second share. We can convert that back to dollars and see that it works out, that mid-August is indeed the point at which he'll have a $54,000 share in the first part of the year and a $54,000 share in the second part of the year. Bob has done his part as the divider, and now it's Ann's turn. She has to pick which part of the year to select. Now we focus solely on her values. So we have to respect Bob's division. Ann can only choose January through mid-August, or mid-August through December. Those are the only choices available. Bob has determined the limits of the shares. Okay? However, she has to determine, based on her own value systems, which of the two shares she will select. Now, the first part of the year is worth a total of $77,000 to Ann, and the second part of the year, as Bob has divided it, is worth only $63,000 to Ann. Right? That's based on adding up the numbers in Ann's row here. 7 months of $10,000 each, plus half of a $14,000 month, is a total of $77,000 in value. In percentage terms, her $77,000 share out of a total value for the year of $140,000, well, that's 11/20ths, or 55% of the value of the whole year. If you didn't convert this to 11/20ths, don't worry about it. You can just ask your calculator how much this is. It will tell you 0.55, or 55%. Great, now that number is 50% or greater. That's the key point. So Anne is indeed getting a fair share. Anne has chosen the first part of the year, therefore Bob gets the second part of the year. There's no doubt about that. So he's left with the other share mid-August through December. We can count up and see that in his valuation he's getting a $54,000 share, or we can simply observe that he is the divider, and therefore he is certain to get half of the total value of the year. So he is certain to get half of 108,000. That's why he divided the way he divided. Our last comment is that it makes a difference who the divider is. In the previous version, when Anne was the divider, she divided at the end of July. When Bob is the divider, he divides in the middle of August. So it depends who the divider is, where the division is going to be. Similarly, when Anne was the divider, she got exactly a minimum fair share and Bob got extra. But if Bob is the divider, he'll get the minimum fair share and Anne will get a little bit extra. So when the divider-chooser method is actually applied, we don't do it both ways, we do it one way. One specific person is the divider, and the other person is the chooser. But how the divider-chooser method will turn out depends who happens to be the divider and who happens to be the chooser.